Good evening. You're watching NDTV. India now has at least a total of 283 cases of coronavirus, with 47 new cases after Friday. That is the biggest single-day spike. India's number of coronavirus positive cases now risen to at least 283 after that biggest single-day jump in the number of cases. 47 new cases reported today. In Delhi, cases are up by 9. There are a total of 26 cases in the national capital. The third case has now been reported in Bengal. Bihar is on alert because there are 4 trains from the coronavirus hit Maharashtra filled with students and migrant workers that are returning home to Bihar. And India is bracing for the one-day janata curfew called for tomorrow, that is on Sunday, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., which is widely being seen as a pilot for a broader lockdown that could be imposed if the spread continues unabated. And there have been 12 new cases, confirmed cases in Kerala today. So the total number of confirmed cases there are 52, which means there are 49 of them admitted in hospitals because three of them have recovered. So as of this point of time, we're sure that you have many concerns, many questions about the spread of the coronavirus in India and what you can do to keep yourself and your loved ones safe. And so we have this call-in show for you, our NDTV viewers, and we have 2 experts in our studios on our show tonight. We have Dr. Swapnil Parekh, who is a doctor and also the author of the Coronavirus, Everything You Need to Know About the Global Pandemic. And we have Dr. Sameer Gupta, a familiar face on NDTV. He is the director of the Cardiac Cath Lab Metro Group of hospitals. I know we already have callers dialing in. We have Balaji from Chennai. So I'm going to quickly hand over to him. Go ahead, Balaji.
Yeah, okay. So this question is to both the experts, we've been talking about a lot of preventive measures and some data, some forecasts, etc., etc. But there is also a school of thought that this coronavirus is there to stay. So should we start talking about accepting it as a way of life and see how do we lead a normal life with this going on side by side? Won't that be the tone and tenor of a dialogue or a conversation which we should kick off sooner than later? Thank you.
Wow, disturbing question certainly, Balaji, but let's hear Dr. Parekh's answer to that. Is this a way of life for us going forward?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Hi, Dr. Sameer Gupta. I don't think we should be so pessimistic. Humanity has dealt with pandemics in the past, and we have overcome them. You should be reassured that the collective intelligence working to combat our biggest health threats is unmatched in the history of our species. Not just human, but also there are going to be some changes. There are some experts from Harvard University who are saying that after the pandemic is over, in the post-pandemic period, we can expect this virus to come back every year, every 2-3 years, or maybe disappear and come back after 5 years. The reality is we just don't know. There isn't enough data to tell you conclusively what our life is going to be like. That being said, what we need to do is we need to, of course, hope that the situation is good, but we need to prepare for the worst case scenarios because we cannot react later. You know, the virus is always a step ahead of us. If we react when we have conclusive data and we have conclusive trends, it's already too late. We have to react now. And our best case scenario is in 12 to 18 months, we say that we overreacted and not as many people died. That will be a great thing. We will be happy if we did that.
All right, Balaji, I hope that answers your question. We have Sukhlak from Delhi joining us. Go ahead, Mr. Sukhlak.
Yeah, hi, this is Suklang here from New Delhi. Good evening to everyone. I have one question relating to raw vegetables, because as we know that when we buy vegetables from the market, the vendors do not use gloves or mask. Okay, so in this with this question, I would like to ask, when we do use for the vegetables that we cook, we have to cook them properly. What about the vegetables, the raw vegetables that we use in smoothies and juices, etc., or the raw vegetables that we consume?
Dr. Gupta?
Yeah. So I think to answer that question, I'm going to go in a different. I'm going to answer something else. which is the question is how does coronavirus or COVID-19 spread? So the coronavirus spreads by fomites, or what we call in medical terminology is fomites. Now, coronavirus is primarily a respiratory infection. That means you get it from the lungs. So when you cough or when you sneeze or even with your spit, there's small aerosols which come out. And those aerosols can go and get deposited on any surface, right? For example, I'm holding this pen, right? So the aerosol can go and get deposited on this pen, and now this pen becomes a carrier. Somebody else comes, uses this pen, and now it's on their hand, and now they put it near the face or whatever, and they inhale it. Or somebody sneezes in the environment, and they inhale that air, and it goes into their lungs. So that is how it spreads. So similarly, if somebody who's possibly infected has coughed on it or has sneezed on it or whatever, through the air, particles have come and settled down on the surface. Now we do know on different surfaces the virus tends to last differently. From according to research, there's about 3 to 6 hours in the air, 7 to 8 hours on different other surfaces like plastic and stainless steel. It varies, but for the most part, in 8 to 9 hours, the virus kind of dies down. So that is one reassuring thing for us. I would say let's go a step further, and even if we keep something out for 12 hours, the virus should possibly be dead on that. But to go an extra mile, what I would do is I would wash that piece of vegetable very nicely with the soap. With water, with warm water. I would wash it, and I would also wash my hands with soap and water before and after touching those vegetables. So in case there was anything, it goes away.
And some of these steps one should incorporate into our lifestyles. Our first caller, Balaji from Chennai, asked if...
Sarah, if I may...
Sure,
just,
go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Parekh. But I was just saying, Balaji just asked that question, is this going to be a way of life going forward? Certainly some of the responses we're seeing to coronavirus, maybe we should be inculcating going forward in terms of cleanliness and in terms of cleaning vegetables properly before we eat them, whether or not we are battling the coronavirus right now. Go ahead, Dr. Parekh. You wanted to add?
I would just like to add on to Dr. Gupta's answer. And we talk about this extensively in our book, The Coronavirus. What happens with the coronavirus is the S protein or the surface protein. And humans have a receptor. It's known as the ACE2 receptor. So think of the S protein like a key and think of the ACE2 receptor as a lock. When the right key comes into contact with the right lock, it opens and the virus can enter the human cell. What happens is we have recently discovered, initially we thought these ACE2 receptors were mainly in the heart, lungs, and kidneys. Recent research has suggested that there's a high concentration of them in the human intestine. So when there is a virus that is on something and we eat it, it can actually open this ACE2 lock inside the intestine, in the cells lining the intestine, and it can actually enter these cells and cause infection. So it's important to remember a lot of the information we have about this is really early.
Yes.
A disease like tuberculosis, which we have found in fossils that are hundreds of thousands years old, we still don't even understand that completely. So it would be a little premature to expect that we understand all the ways that this virus can spread at this early stage. That being said, we should take precautions like Dr. Gupta mentioned. Hand hygiene is key.
All right. We have lots of callers piling up, so let's get to them. Madhav from New Delhi. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, doctors. My question for you, doctor, is how do you see this epidemic playing out in India in the coming few days? Thank you.
Who wants to go first? Dr. Parekh.
So the reality is, of course, we can't predict the future. But from what we've seen in other countries, and we shouldn't expect anything different here, the situation does look a little too grave. If I might explain with a little graphic, to show what I mean and why we're worried. You can look at the trend in two countries. If you can see that, this line that's going upwards represents the number of cases. So you can see it's not just the number of cases, but it's the rate at which it's increasing. Correct. So a steeper slope means that it's increasing quickly. Now I want to show you India. We of course have a lot lower cases. We have about 300, just over 300 confirmed cases now. If you look at India's graph, although there are few know about, you can that as started with a few people. It started with just a few people and spread to a lot of people. So when there are a few people, but they're increasing in number rapidly, that is a cause of concern. And what we need to do in India right now, we need to think outside the box. We need to massively scale up ventilator production. We really need to scale this up at a top priority. We need telemedicine solutions. Me and some of my colleagues are actually working on some of these solutions. And we hope other doctors will also join us, engineers will join us. We really need to pull together.
So our base population, of course, makes India different from many of these other countries that are struggling with the spread of coronavirus. That's the added disadvantage for India. Dr. Gupta, a total of 283 cases that we know of right now, a jump of 47 cases now today, the biggest spike. So where do you see this going forward? Same question to you. Madhav's question.
So I agree with what Dr. Parekh said. It's the rate of ascent. It's like how fast are these numbers going up, and how fast can we as a community come together and try and tackle this? And that is why hand hygiene, like he mentioned earlier, Dr. Parekh mentioned earlier, is one of the very important things to keep in mind, along with social distancing. And I appeal to all the viewers and all the citizens of the country to try and abide by the janata curfew tomorrow.
So we can't repeat this enough. Some things, what we need to do may just be really basic, but that's really what's needed at this hour. Well, let's take one more caller before we go in for a break. Shaji from Bangalore.
Right. Thank you. See, my question is to Dr. Swapnil. Doctor, see, three things. I'll quickly put it across. The first one is, 3 days before, our numbers for India was about 180, okay? And that time, when we were taking out the total count, we had imported about 112, okay? And local about 78, which is about 60 to 40% ratio. I mean, 60% was the one which was imported. This was a figure which was about 3 days before, all right? Now, my question to you is, see, government is actually, banning all international flights across starting tomorrow. Now, had we taken this step at least a week before, 10 days before, wouldn't we have been able to control it much, much better than the way we are in now? That's question number one. Question number two is, when it goes to the lowest level of people? See, luckily at the moment, most of the, people are at the, highest level. I mean, the rich and, rich is actually serving it to the poor now. All right. So what when it goes to the lowest level? Would it, be not able to completely control? Third question, if a COVID-19 infected person, after, he comes out, being negative, first being positive and then being negative, is there a chance of him, getting it again? All right. So,
okay. All right, Shaji, let's allow doctors to take these questions. There are three of them. The third one, many people may have. The first two, I think we've already touched upon. But the third one, if you can respond to that also, Dr. Parekh, once you've gotten this, I mean, are there various strains like for dengue, for example, or can you contract it again? Does your body get immunity to this?
Sure. So the simple answer is this is an entirely new beast and we just do not know. However, we can make some intelligent inferences based on other coronaviruses. There are coronaviruses that cause the common cold. The duration of immunity to these coronaviruses is about 1 to 2 years. Whereas with the SARS coronavirus that caused the SARS outbreak in 2003, the duration of immunity was much longer. To understand how immunity, we need to perform a special kind of test known as an antibody test. It's called a serological study, and that's what we have actually been pushing for. That's why we've been asking for more testing. You see, one part of testing is to diagnose the people who are sick. The other part of testing is so we can study patterns of a disease and we can better direct our public health answers. Right now, most of our testing resources are being directed towards those who are sick. If doctors are allowed to use a small percentage, maybe 10 to 20% of these testing resources to better understand this disease, then we could give you more conclusive answers. What's the duration of immunity? And these are important questions. But I think at least for a year or two, we will have immunity against this virus. It might be much longer, maybe 7, 10, lifelong. We just don't know. But at least 1 to 2 years, you should be immune.
All right, we're going to go in for a short break. We do have more callers after that, but the visuals we've been showing you on the show were of people from across India already starting to come out on their balconies to clap and to applaud those on the front line. Remember, that's what Prime Minister Modi mentioned in his speech, saying that tomorrow at 5 p.m. Everybody should come out and applaud those who have to who are on the front line in this fight against the coronavirus. So hope in the face of coronavirus. We'll of course be following this tomorrow. You can send in any videos, any reactions you have to this to NDTV, and we will play it up during the day. Let's go in for a short break. More on the other side. Welcome back. We're completely out of time. So let me ask one question to both our doctors. Doctors, you know, this is a long-term fight that we have against the coronavirus. So I want to just ask you about mental health. How does one maintain mental health? Because this is a trying, stressful, confusing time in the middle of this crisis. Yet we aren't allowed to meet other people, to talk to other people about it possibly then. So what should one do? Quick answers. Dr. Gupta first.
So I think, sorry.
So, Dr. Parag, why don't you just continue? Yep. So,
instead of social distancing, sorry, apologies.
Okay, Dr. Gupta, first to you.
Okay, yeah. So I think social distancing, you know, so there are two components to it. One is the mental health issue, which you're talking about, rightfully so, and the other is the actual disease, which is killing people. And both of them are very, very important to deal with. I think social distancing becomes a pivotal part in fighting coronavirus so we don't die, but we should also be happy. And that's where the role of technology comes in. You know, instead of meeting people, we can FaceTime. You can talk to people. You know, older people may not, you know, if they're not around you, you know, let them FaceTime with their grandchildren. You know, give them love, give them comfort, show solidarity. I think that, and remember, it is we as a community who are coming together to try and fight this disease. Because until and unless each one of us contributes, this disease is not going away.
We need to come together to both fight this and support each other. Dr. Parikh, last word to you.
I would say instead of calling it social distancing, let's call it physical distancing. Like Dr. Gupta said, we can build digital bridges using social media and technology to bridge the physical divide. Physical distancing, not necessarily social distancing.
I'm certainly going to start calling it that. Physical distancing, not social distancing. Thank you so much, all of you and all of our callers who had some great questions tonight. Much that was learned. Thank you and stay tuned to NDTV.